We are in lesson 5 this evening, which is the evidence of creation. So far we've talked about a more generalized view of why people are skeptics, why people don't believe. We've made the case that belief in God is reasonable, and now we turn to the Bible, and we have to ask ourselves, which God? And is the God that is revealed to us in the Bible and the acts that are attributed to him in the Bible, are they reasonable to believe? And so Josh Gertler was the author of this chapter. And so when we talk about the evidence of creation, what are we going to be comparing it to?
What do you think of the Big Bang Theory?
Yeah. We're going to be talking about Big Bang Theory and evolution by natural selection. When we hear the word evolution, what does the word itself, not what it's describing, what does the word itself mean? It means to change. So if something evolves, it changes. And so the word itself is not a bad word. Things change. You sometimes hear sometimes our way of thinking evolves. In other words, we believe one thing, we get new input, now we believe something else. It has changed. Sometimes changing your beliefs is not a bad thing either. Like as far as if you believe something is wrong and you're given new information that proves it's wrong, it would be bad if we didn't change. Because that would just make us stubborn. That would just make us people who are arrogant and think, well, we can't be wrong. But the reason I bring this up is we've got to be careful when we're dealing with people who believe in evolution by natural selection that we're using the same words, that they are to mean the same thing. When we just talk, we don't believe in evolution. You're going to get mocked out there saying, you don't believe things change? You don't think animals' colors change? Or that within, like as far as you breed two animals together, like two different breeds of dog, and you're going to get maybe another breed of dog. Like so, you don't believe in that, and you sound crazy because we see that. And you say, and so we have to realize that if we just come out to say we don't believe in evolution, that we're not. When a scientist hears that, they're not saying the same thing we are. So the first question is, the idea that God allowed all non-living matter in the universe to evolve over billions of years may be called what? Theistic. That is theistic evolution. Or inorganic evolution. Both of those. Both of those things would be fine. And so when we have the Bible describing to us creation, it's not describing what our science textbook is telling us. What does the science textbook say when it comes to how we got there? We start with the Big Bang, but what happens after that?
Millions and billions of years.
All right, so we have to have millions and billions of years. Why do we have to have millions and billions of years? Evolution has to have millions and billions of years.
Well, that's about the only way I think that they can make it sound factual.
And why is that?
Well, because they just keep adding time to it. They don't really give a definite beginning.
Well, they're going to have a number. They have 13.6 billion years as to what, and it's more precise than that. And they're going to have a time scale, but they need that time scale. Why?
Everything has come from a little
Yeah.
primordial
like I said, you need that time to get the change. Because, and that's what theistic evolution is trying to sort of marry, is if God didn't create this earth the way we see it today, with all the diversity of life the way it is, if we had to start out with nothing and get to today without the hand of God involved at all, well, we could take a look at the sky and see, start with our sun, our star. We can measure how much gas it burns, and we can look at other stars in the sky and figure out, okay, they try to go back in time to figure out, all right, how big was the sun when it started? Like, they take a look at rocks on this earth. They use dating methods to come along and say, well, this rock's 4.5 billion years old, or this rock's 3 billion years old, and they use methods, and we'll get into that a little later on in our study of this lesson, dealing with those types of things. But we don't see the rate of changing fast today. If you come up and tell someone that we evolved from a common ancestor with the orangutan, and it happened in 5,000 years, you'd be laughed out of the room. Because if that was the case, if things were rapidly changing like that, we'd expect to see that all over the place. Things would be at different stages, and we would expect to see rapid change. And we don't. We don't see rapid change. We don't see the type of evolution that the scientist is talking about either, with our eyes. They infer it from things they dig out of the ground, but we don't see it with our eyes. We see exactly what Genesis 1 is telling us with our eyes. Things beget things that beget things that beget things. We don't see the type of evolution with our eyes that is told to us in the science textbook. We have to infer that from what we dig from the ground. But this idea that there is no change, we shouldn't be taking that thing either. Because even in Scripture, everything is reproducing after its kind, but how we divide species here on this earth and how the Bible talks about kinds are not species. So in other words, dogs, there's so many different breeds of dogs. And you can have Cocker Spaniels, German Shepherds, Labradors, and crosses of some of these animals. They're all dogs. But to come along and think that when God said you're going to reproduce after your kind, that there'd only be one type of dog, you're misreading Genesis 1. What we call the species of dog is not the same as the kind of Genesis 1. You have to go further up there, the taxonomy tree that the scientists will classify to get to where, all right, now we're dealing with all dogs, all different types of dogs. They're different species of dogs, but they're still all dogs. Whereas when you get to cats, well, you can't breed a dog and a cat to get a hybrid of something. Those are two different kinds in Genesis 1, but that would be, I don't know whether that's the family or the genus level, whichever it is in the science chart. I should have put the chart up there. I had it in other lessons that I've done. But we have to realize, to be precise in our language, when we talk about evolution, we're talking about evolution by natural selection. Evolution that is without God. So in other words, this universe came about from nothing, and everything we see today has evolved over millions and billions of years from nothing. Life came from non-life, and everything continues on as it was and changes gradually over time. Theistic evolution, though, tries to come along and say, okay, well, we got all these rocks in the ground, we got these fossils in the ground. We think those fossils are saying what the science textbook says, but we also want to believe in God. We don't want to come along and say God doesn't exist, because obviously that seems silly to a theistic evolutionist, that God doesn't exist. Where do we come from? We will eventually get back to the question of where we came from that the scientists can't answer. Scientists is run on parallel universes and eternal matter. Well, we can't find parallel universes, and matter is not eternal. We have shown that to be so. And so you run into that problem with the scientists saying, well, where did the Big Bang come from? The theistic evolutionists would say, God. That's where the Big Bang came from. And that Genesis 1 actually tells us this. Let's read Genesis 1. I'd like us to get Genesis 1. I'd like us to read what it's actually saying to us, and figure out what it's teaching, and then we'll go back and deal with maybe the theistic evolution part. We may stray from the questions a little bit. The way I'm going to do this is, instead of giving you so many verses, I'm just going to let you do the days. So we'll start with Naomi. She can start at the beginning. And when it says the evening and the morning was the something day, we'll go off to the next person. And we'll just go around until we're done. So we'll start with Genesis 1, verse 1.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day.
Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and morning were the second day.
Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herbs that yield seeds, and the fruit trees that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day.
When it says evening and morning was fourth day, verse 19 for you, Henry. You start at verse 14 now.
Then God said, "Let there be nights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for nights in the firmament of the heavens to give night on the earth." And it was so. Then God made two great nights, the greater night to rule the day, and the lesser night to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give night on the earth, and to rule over the day, over the night, and to divide the night from the darkness. And God saw that was good. So the evening and the morning was the first day.
And God said, "Let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the heavens." So God created the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. And there was evening and there was morning the fifth day.
Then God said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth, each according to its kind, and it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God made man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, See, I have given you every herb that yields seed which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, and every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
I'm going to get verses 1 to 3, Bill.
Thus the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done.
I've got verse 3 as well, yeah.
Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made.
Okay, so if you were to pick up the Bible, you didn't know anything about it, how long did it take God to create the heavens and the earth?
6 days.
6 days. What would be the definition of a day, according to the chapter?
Evening and morning.
Evening and morning. So it's the exact same time frame that we talk about when we talk about days. And it's very easy to understand that. You go to any English translation and you're going to get day. You're going to get day, first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, and sixth day. And then the seventh day, chapter 2. You're going to get that. You're going to get that. You want to know where a week comes from? It comes from Genesis 1. Is there any other reason? What's the difference between Monday and Tuesday? It's the same 24-hour day. Why is our calendar divided into sevens? It's divided into sevens because Genesis 1 divided the first week into sevens. And there's no other rhyme or reason. Why isn't the week divided into fives? 300. If you go 365, there are an even number of 365s than if you divide the week into sevens. And that's why you wind up with some months, like I said, then 12 months. Like I said, we all of this, all of the creation is embedded into our lifestyle, no matter if we believe in it or not. And they would say, well, the ancients believed in it. Yeah, the ancients did too, and they believed in it because they might not have had Genesis 1 like we have it, but their myths all sound eerily familiar to what we find in the Bible. And the Bible is saying this is what is true, and everything else changed, evolved from it, and changed it. And so you can't come away from Genesis 1 thinking millions and billions of years. So let's go through the process. We're here on day 1. In the beginning. What is in the beginning? Who is in the beginning?
Mentions God.
It mentions God. Now, Job would tell us there are angels as well. Because in Job 38, 39, and 40, when God asked Job, where were you when I made the stars of heaven and the sons of men sang together? Well, man wasn't there when the stars of heaven were made. Who are the sons of men? Well, in the book of Job, the sons of men are angels. And, sons of God, not sons of men, sons of God. They're there. In the beginning, God, though. This universe didn't exist. What came next?
Light.
Well, verse 2 says something else was there first.
Oh, the earth.
The earth was without form and void. I don't know what that means as far as what this earth looked like. It didn't look like what it does today. We know that. It was without form and void. Does that mean it didn't exist at all? Or, it must have existed as something because the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Now, when you deal with Hebrew literature, the face of the waters, there's waters in the sky. And so you have to understand that just because we see water there doesn't mean that the water being discussed is the same form we're thinking about it in, as in lakes and seas and things like that. But the earth was there, was without form and void. Nothing was there. It was dark. And then God said, let there be light. Now, what form did this light take? What form did the light take? When we look out into the sky, we see light. There's still light outside. What's producing the light out there?
Well, it's the sun.
The sun's out there. Now, is this the sun? It's not the sun. Why do we know it's not the sun? He created that later. And so this is what we might call what I call a prehistoric form of light. This is a different form of light. And the Christian was mocked for believing in light before stars. They were mocked for believing in light before stars. How could there be light before stars? Science now believes in light before stars. It's not the same focus light that we get from stars, but light existed before stars burned the energy that produced the photons that we see as light. Light existed before that. And this universe was lit up before stars. Even the Big Bang Theory will tell you that. It will go into that a little bit more, but the Bible says there was light before stars. What did that mean it looked like? That, I don't know. There was evening and there was morning. It divided the darkness from the light. There was obviously areas of light and areas of darkness. So it was divided. Darkness existed, and then there was light. So we have, that was the first day. Now you might say, that was not a lot created on the first day. But light was absolutely necessary for everything else to happen. You could do a lot of this other stuff if you don't have light there. Light energy also is where you get heat from, where you get electromagnetism from. You get all this other stuff from light and the existence of light. And so you need it before you start creating everything else. What happened on the second day?
He divided the waters.
All right. He divided the waters from the waters. What does that mean? This goes to my point on the waters in Hebrew literature. How can you divide water from water? That's because it's not dry land. That's the third day. So, what you got, Bill?
I I just wanted to, I've always wondered if that just meant the heavens, from the rain the heavens, and the rains for the waters on the earth.
Yeah. The Hebrew literature talks about the waters of heaven. And so, in other words, why is it we can breathe on this planet, but if we send people to Mars, they have to wear spacesuits? It's a planet, right? The gravity is about the same. It's a little different, but the gravity is about the same. But we can't live on Mars, and we can live here. Why? Because of our atmosphere. Our atmosphere has the gases in that we need in our. We need nitrogen and oxygen and carbon dioxide and all these other gases that are in our atmosphere. They need to be there. They serve a purpose. The plants that we live on the carbon dioxide that's in our atmosphere, and when they take that in through photosynthesis, produce oxygen among the energy that they release, and we live off the oxygen. Nitrogen's required for different processes here on this earth, and if you travel up further, higher and higher and higher, you go to Denver, Colorado, and you'll find it's different breathing up there because they're a mile above sea level. You go to Mexico City, same thing. Climb Mount Everest, it's even worse. The higher you go, the thinner the atmosphere is. That's why when you go on an airplane, they have to pressurize the plane. Because if you went up that high and didn't pressurize the plane and have oxygen in there, you wouldn't be able to breathe. So the higher you go, the thinner the atmosphere, the less we can actually survive. So what's being created here is the atmosphere of the Earth, the thing that separates us from outer space. And every planet has a different atmosphere. And some atmospheres, Jupiter's atmosphere is so thick that, and Venus's I think is the same, it's so thick that there's so much air pressure that you can't live, you'd be crushed. And Mars, the atmosphere is so thin that it doesn't hold any of the gases that we need to survive. Our atmosphere does. Our atmosphere is created by God to sustain life. You need the atmosphere because some of the gases in the air is deflecting the radiation from the sun. You go out there and you get sunburned. Well, you've absorbed a little bit too much solar radiation. And that's not good for us. So there are gases in the atmosphere that do that. We have a magnetosphere that we use for GPS, but it's our protection for some of the dangerous particles that the sun emits that would just kill us if we didn't have that. So we have the firmament of the heavens, and he divided the waters from above the waters. And so that's Hebrew literature. We just got to understand that. Day 4 starts, day 3. Day 3 starts to get, all right, the planet's going to start to look a little bit more like the planet. What was made on day 3?
The land and the seas.
Land and the seas. That was the first thing. So in other words, this planet was covered in water. It was just this big blue marble. And if you go far enough out and take a picture, that's all you can see of this earth is the water. 70% of it is water. But the land, the water does not come from the land. The land comes from the water. You drain the oceans. You drain the water from this earth, and you would see that the land, that there's caverns and mountains and other things. Why do islands suddenly appear? Well, the water evaporates and we get more land that was under the ocean that we didn't know of. Like as far as when there's earthquakes and the land moves up, we get, like as far as islands are created. Because there's land under there. The dry land protrudes from the water. And what came after that on the third day?
And the earth brought forth vegetation like grass.
All right, so the dry land brought forth vegetation, grass, and every herb that produced seed after its kind. That's important that we realize that all the different types of grasses reproduce after its kind, all the different types of plants reproduce after their kind. That's the theme. That's the third day. All right, so we have this earth. It has light and darkness, but it has an atmosphere now. Has protection, as far as it has an atmosphere that can produce vegetation. The vegetation came first, and then what happened?
You had fruit trees.
Oh no! All right, we've completed the third day. So we've completed the third day. So we come to the fourth day.
The sun and the moon.
Sun, moon, and stars. Why were they created? God told us why they were created. There's a couple reasons.
To divide the day and night.
To divide the day and night. So, in other words, we had said in the beginning that the light was unfocused light. And what exactly that looked like, I can't say. But there was light and darkness. There was light and darkness. But it wasn't focused. Well, God focused it. We have the sun and the moon. One will rule the day, that's the sun. One will rule the night. Now, the moon does not produce its own light. The moon reflects the light the sun provides. And so as the moon rotates and revolves around the earth, we get the different phases of the moon. How much of the moon we see depends on where it is in relation to the earth and the sun. Sometime once a month we get a new moon where it's out there but we can't see it. And then half a month later it's a full moon where we see all of the side of the moon that faces us. and it can appear very bright in the light in the night. And we have the stars as well. But there was a second reason God created those things.
Well, he created plants.
Okay, yes. Okay. That was the focus. That's the part of focusing it. So in other words, we need consistent day, we need consistent night. But God said in verse 14 what the sun and the moon, the secondary purpose of those things were. For signs, for seasons, for years, for days. They're what we measure time by. There are many different ways to measure time. And we measure a day on this earth by how long it takes the earth to make one full rotation and the sun to come back to the same spot it was. 24 hours, about 24 hours. And if we lived on Mars, our day would be different because it takes Mars a different amount of time. Not much different in time as far as 24 hours. I think it's like 24 hours and some 30 some odd minutes or whatever. But our year would be longer because Mars is further away from the sun. When we talk about, I don't believe if we lived on Mars, it would be 24 hours and 37 minutes or whatever it is. I believe it would be 24 hours. It's just the second would tick differently because we would create a time that would be easy for us to manage, to follow. And so the days, the day and the night, they were for time. They were to measure time. We have other accurate ways of measuring time. Like I said, we can use atoms to measure time, and we can do things but the sun is for measuring time. The fifth day talked about the waters, having the abundance of living creatures. Let the birds fly above the earth, across the face of the firmament of heaven. And God created the great sea creatures, everything that moves in the water, every winged beast according to its kind. And again, we find according to its kind. Then we have the living creatures on land, and the beasts made after its kind. And lastly, we have mankind made in the image of God. And the point I want to make here is the very order of creation. If you compare the order of Genesis 1 to what you will read in the science textbook, there are some differences. They will deny day 4 that the earth preceded the sun. That is denied in the science textbook. But the order of animals appearing on this earth, that's the same. Life began in water, like living creatures began in the water. Then we have birds, then we have land animals. That's the same order. The vegetation being there, the land appearing from the water, that's in the science textbook. And that is why you have people coming along trying to marry Genesis 1 with the science textbook. Because they're saying so much of it agrees. So why can't we just make a day an eon of an indeterminate amount of time? The problem with that is nothing happens for millions and billions of years. You have day and night. You have the earth for millions and billions of years with no sun. The earth for millions and billions of years with no moon. No stars. You have plants having been created and no sun or day-night cycle with sun and the moon. You run into problems when you try to stretch Genesis 1 to make it agree with the science textbook, instead of coming along and saying the science textbook was written by man. So instead of trying to take the Word of God or make it agree with the Word of man, why don't we come around and say the Word of man needs to yield to the Word of God? We're going to talk more about this. We ran out of time. I don't want to go much further. We're going to talk more about theistic evolution. We'll be in question 5. I'm going to skip the other ones, but we'll be in question 5, Lord willing, next Wednesday, talking about the difference between naturalistic evolution and theistic evolution, and then talk about the day-age theory a little bit more and why we can't really marry these two. And then we will talk about how why a literal interpretation of Genesis 1 and 2 is important. We may not get to that last part next week. We'll see. But we are going to talk a lot more about the day-age controversy a little bit more next week.
I'm not ashamed to own my Lord, nor to